Chapter 383. What are you two talking about? Why are you so happy? Dr. Fan's face was also full of joy. Dr. Fan, take good care of Imperial Physician Yao. I will take my leave first. Yunsheng walked away with a smile. But what Dr. Fan didn't know was that in Yunsheng's beast language ring, there was an extra map. This map was provided by Yao Rong. In the map, the locations and names of all the 180 main pharmacies of the Imperial Medicine Pavilion in Zhou State were clearly distributed. After obtaining the map, Yunsheng also looked for Zhong Yi. What, you said you want to find more than 100 giant-winged green bats? I say, little master, you still haven't learned your lesson. Look at Zhou Chutsuan this time. In my opinion, even if you want to find a flying magical beast, you should find a more ferocious one. After Zhong Yi learned about Zhou Chutsuan, he was angry. He almost killed his way to the Imperial Medicine Pavilion. No, it's still the giant-winged green bat. After all, if it's another ferocious magical beast, the villagers won't be able to subdue it. But this time, I want to transform the giant-winged green bat. Yunsheng's eyes flashed. After the incident with Zhou Chutsuan, Qi Fengfei was very vigilant for a long time. She originally thought that Yao Rong would die after being injured by her, but who knew that she would come back to life? Moreover, with the protection of Yun Songlong and others, it was impossible for her to kill Yao Rong. Qi Fengfei was very worried because Yao Rong was different from Fan Ji. She was the core figure of the Imperial Medicine Pavilion and knew too many secrets. But after waiting for nearly 3 months, there was still no movement from little Ci Entong. At Zhou Chutsuan's side, the villagers were still working as usual. Everything looked normal. The other villages also didn't dare to plant medicinal herbs for little Ci Entong. Qi Fengfei's deterrent effect was basically achieved. This time, Zhou Chutsuan's medicinal herbs matured again. Qi Fengfei paid close attention to Zhou Chutsuan's situation. After learning that Zhou Chutsuan still recklessly planted medicinal herbs after suffering a heavy blow, Qi Fengfei smiled coldly. Chang Sihai, find the hunting group from last time and sneak into Zhou Chutsuan tonight? Infiltrate Zhou Chu village? What do you mean by that? After Yao Rong and Fan Ji reconciled, Chang Sihai was so jealous that he wanted to die. Right now, he was playing the role of Qi Fengfei's lackey. What's the use of keeping those villagers who don't learn their lesson? Bring people and massacre Zhou Chu village. Remember to destroy their medicinal fields as well. Then, make it look like the mountain bandits exterminating the village. Qi Fengfei's expression was fierce as she spoke. Hearing this, Chang Sihai felt his scalp go numb. Thinking of killing hundreds of people in the village, Chang Sihai also felt that it was a bit too much. Billowing flames and smoke soared into the sky. They understood that Zhong Yi had already killed all the hunters. This group of villagers who had always been obedient had a carefree look in their eyes at this moment. The village chief and his wife hugged each other and murmured, "Little Hua, you should rest in peace now. Miracle Dr. Yun has avenged you and everyone else." As the flames soared into the sky, another operation was quietly beginning. If the fire in Zhouchu village was a prairie fire, then the hundreds of medicinal farms of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion in Zhou State were facing a spark of fire. As the most authoritative medical establishment in the entire continent, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, other than having an endless supply of medical talents, also relied on their supply of medicinal herbs for survival. Their medicinal farms were all built on the most fertile soil of the various countries. There were professional farmers there to help them grow and take care of the medicinal herbs. Every year, June and December were the peak seasons for the Medicine Emperor Pavilion to harvest medicinal herbs. On this night, in the largest medicinal farm of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, the farmers had just fallen asleep. In this medicinal farm, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion's most precious Saint-grade red Lulan ginseng was planted. Other than that, there were also large amounts of precious medicinal herbs. There was only half a month left until the harvest season in June. Looking at the growth of the medicinal herbs in the field, it could be seen that this year would be a bumper harvest for medicinal herbs. Every year during the harvest season, there would be some people who were not afraid of death sneaking into the medicinal farms to steal medicinal herbs. Therefore, a few magicians were specially arranged to set up a magic array around the medicinal farms. As long as someone entered this area, the magic array would send out a warning. This night it was very quiet the entire night. On the morning of the second day, the farmers got up and prepared to sow the soil before the dew dried up. One of the farmers sleepily walked to the medicinal farm of the red Lulan ginseng that he was in charge of. When he saw the situation in the medicinal farm, he was instantly scared out of his wits and sat down on the ridge of the medicinal farm. Not good. The medicinal farm has been destroyed by people. At the same time, more than half of the medicinal farms in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion had similar incidents. The medicinal herbs in the medicinal farm were in a mess. The leaves and fruits were all eaten clean. That situation was like a plague of locusts. But the most unbelievable thing was that the magic arrays in the vicinity were all safe and sound. There were no signs of being invaded by people or magical beasts. But the medicinal farm was indeed destroyed, and the destruction was very thorough. Chapter 385. Not good, Medicine Man Chi. Another wave of anxious voice sounded. A doctor stumbled into the room while supporting a man whose entire body was almost burnt to charcoal. That person who was burnt beyond recognition was barely recognizable as Chang Si-hai. Dead. They're all dead. Chang Si-hai's body leaned forward as soon as he finished speaking. He fell to the ground and stopped breathing. The smell of burnt flesh and the horrifying corpse was placed in front of Medicine Man Chi. Chi Fengfei's heart felt as if it was grabbed by someone and she couldn't breathe. Who sent him back? Chi Fengfei squeezed out a sentence from between her teeth. It seems to be a flying demonic beast that dropped you off at the entrance of our Medicine Emperor Pavilion. There was even a person sitting on the back of the demonic beast. He wanted me to pass a message to Medicine Man Chi. Thank you for your 3 months of time. The person who brought the message didn't understand what the other party meant. But Chi Fengfei's eyes widened. 3 months of time, could it be that in these 3 months, 3 months of time was not a long time and it was just the right time for a complete medicinal herb to grow? At the same time, it also allowed Yun Sheng to find a way to increase the strength of the giant-winged green bat. At the same time, it also allowed Yun Sheng to deploy the ant soldiers of the centipede ant general. On the mainland, what kind of magical beast was the most abundant? It wasn't rats or birds, but the most abundant magical beast was the beast ant. 3 months of time was enough for the centipede ant general to cross half of the boundless land and gather the ant soldiers from all over the world. Not to mention dozens of major medicine shops. Even if there were hundreds of them, it was nothing in the eyes of the beast ant general. What ordinary hunters couldn't achieve was insignificant in front of the beast ant general. Chi Fengfei looked at the already dead Chang Si-hai on the ground, and then looked at the panicked doctor. She only felt that the world was spinning. After a long while, she spat out a sentence. Go and invite Wen de Guosho. It was really ice and fire. When the Medicine Emperor Pavilion fell into an unprecedented desperate situation, the little Ci Entong finally received the first batch of medicinal herbs. Lin Yaoer and GMO busied themselves for an entire day before they managed to clean up the sea buckthorns. The quality of the sea buckthorn is very good, enough to reach the first grade. About 10% of the herbs have even reached the special grade. It seems that the method of using magic to cultivate herbs is feasible. GMO breathed a sigh of relief, his pair of bright eyes secretly glancing at Yun Sheng. Unlike Lin and Ji, who were extremely busy, Yun Sheng was sitting in the clinic, drinking the iced sour plum soup that Yao Rong had prepared early in the morning. She had a satisfied look on her face. Even when Daiguoshu came out, Yao Rong and Dr. Fan also came out. Lin Yaoer quickly closed the medical hall. In the narrow medical hall for the first time there were so many people. Master Yao Rong's face was full of embarrassment. She and Wen Daiguoshu had a deep master and disciple relationship. She did not expect that they would meet again after a long time in such a scene. Wen Daiguoshu looked at the small Xiantong. This was a medium-sized medical hall, but it was well managed. Inside, the medicine cabinets, medicinal herbs, and pharmacopoeia were all neatly arranged. Because it was operated together with ancient medicine, there was a special corner where various colors of magical herbs were placed. The overall layout of the small Xiantong was completely different from that of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. There was no style of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, but at the same time there was a warm feeling of home. When Daiguoshu and other people did not know that the layout of the small Xiantong was based on the layout of her ancestral small clinic in her previous life. Yin Yunsheng's grandfather had always practiced medicine by letting the patients feel like they were at home. This point, Yunsheng had inherited it very well. When Daiguoshu entered the medical hall, he found that the faces of the patients who had not yet left were full of relief. They had complete trust in the doctors of the small Xiantong. When Daiguoshu had experienced the vicissitudes of life, whether it was fame or fortune, he had seen through it all. He did not expect that after 50 years of stability in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion of the Jade Capital, the position of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion would be shaken by a small medical hall in just a few months. No, to be exact, it was shaken by the little girl in front of him who was a dual cultivator of ancient medicine and magical herbs. His two beloved disciples Yao Rong and Fan Ji betrayed him. His disciple Cheng Sihai also died. Most importantly, this time around, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion's foundation had been damaged to the core, to the very foundation of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. The losses of the various pharmacies were more serious than he had imagined. More than 90% of the precious herbs were destroyed, and more than 80% of the sacred herbs were out of stock. This time, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion lost more than half a year's supply of herbs. That was Elder Seeming's daily homework. Very few people knew, or rather only 2 people in this world knew, that in a certain room deep in the temple, there was a divine tool that shocked the entire continent, the Heavenly Fate Mirror of the 8 Baron Divine Tools. No one knew when the Heavenly Fate Mirror fell into the hands of the temple. Very few people knew about the uniqueness of the Heavenly Fate Mirror. Because in the temple, only Elder Seeming and Young Seeming knew about the use of the Heavenly Fate Mirror. From the outside, the Heaven's Mandate Mirror looked no different from an ordinary mirror. It was just that the surface of the mirror wasn't the usual brass color of the boundless continent. Regardless of whether it was day or night, the surface of the Heavenly Fate Mirror was hazy, and it shone like mother-of-pearl starlight. This seemingly ordinary mirror reflected the general situation of the world. If there was no war in the world, the mirror would reflect a gentle starlight. But if there was war, the mirror would reflect a bloody light. In the past few decades, most of the time the mirror would reflect a gentle starlight. On this day, Elder Seeming finished her morning prayer class as usual. Just as she was about to turn and leave, a light suddenly flashed on her mirror. The entire mirror turned into a bloody light. When Elder Seeming saw this, she immediately walked in front of the Heavenly Fate Mirror. A figure appeared on the mirror. "Thank you Ruomeng and Minion for your tips." Yunsheng didn't expect that the person looking for her would be Uncle Yun. She had met Uncle Yun a few times and knew that he was an old servant of the Yun residence. He was also old General Yun's page boy and had watched the 3 Yun siblings grow up together. He was a very amiable old man, but Yunsheng heard from Yun Songlong that Uncle Yun shouldn't be underestimated. He was also a martial artist and his cultivation was also a martial marquis. Most of the guards in the Yun residence weren't his opponent. It was said that his skills were trained by accompanying Yun Ba in the past. "Young miss," Uncle Yun had been waiting for a while. He saw that Yunsheng was busy and didn't have the nerve to disturb her. Only when Yunsheng noticed him did he step forward to greet her. "Uncle Yun, you shouldn't call me young miss." Yunsheng didn't like being called young miss and young master. Moreover, she didn't want to be associated with people like Tang Yu. "Young miss, don't be angry with master. He has always been worried about you." Uncle Yun felt sad when he heard this. After Tang Yu was exiled, although the Yun residence was a lot quieter, it was also a lot more deserted. Yun Songlong was also busy with the matters of the hunting corps, and rarely came to the residence. In order to make the residence livelier, the 3rd miss made arrangements to celebrate Yun Ba's birthday. Yun Ba was already 60 years old this year. He didn't comment on the birthday banquet. But in private he was still happy. He even asked Uncle Yun a few times about the matter of Little Xiantong. Not many people in the Jade Capital knew about the battle between Medicine Emperor Pavilion and Little Xiantong, but Yun Ba more or less knew about it. Although he said that Yunsheng was arrogant and ignorant, he was secretly very pleased. That was his granddaughter, a member of the Yun residence. If he wanted to do something, he would do it to the top. This time he made Wendagwa suffer a loss. Yun Ba was very proud. Uncle Yun was well aware of his master's temper. He had snuck over behind Yunba's back and handed a birthday invitation to Yunsheng. "Young miss, it'll be old General's 60th birthday in a few days." After saying that, Uncle Yun looked at Yunsheng with an expectant face. How could Yunsheng not understand his meaning? Towards the Yun residence, Yunsheng's attitude had always been very clear. She wasn't a member of the Yun residence. As long as old General Yun didn't acknowledge her identity as his mother, she wouldn't call him grandfather and didn't plan to go to the Yun residence. "I will prepare a birthday gift," Yunsheng said vaguely. She didn't say whether she would personally go or not, and prepared to send Uncle Yun away. "Young miss, actually, the matter of that year. It wasn't entirely old General's fault," Uncle Yun still wanted to explain. Coincidentally, a patient came to the door. "If she doesn't come, I won't be able to celebrate my birthday," Yunba said stubbornly. "Master, this old servant will go back to work on the birthday banquet." Uncle Yun wiped the sweat from his forehead. His master was really getting worse and worse. His temper was like that of a child's. Yunba wanted to say something, but a guard came in and reported, "Master, Xia Siming of the Dharma Temple wishes to see you." When Yunba heard this, his expression softened. Uncle Yun heaved a sigh of relief and took the opportunity to slip away. Yunba straightened his clothes and went out to welcome the guest. Xia Wenshu had come to Zhou State this time and saved the crown prince's life. The imperial family of Zhou State was very courteous to him. In addition, he was young, so his reputation as a genius had spread throughout the mainland for many years. Even someone like Yunba, who didn't like to interact with sorcerers, couldn't help but treat him with respect. "Xia Siming, an honored guest has come to visit. Please forgive this old man for not going out to welcome you." As soon as Yunba stepped out, he saw Xia Wenshu waiting at the door, accompanied by 2 children. Although he had heard of Xia Wenshu's name long ago, this was the first time he had seen him in person. It was rumored that Xia Wenshu was like an orchid and had an unparalleled bearing. Now that he saw him today, he had a tall and straight posture and wore a sorcerer's robe. His silver hair was like snow, and it reflected his handsome face. Even a boorish person like Yunba couldn't help but praise him in his heart. This person was really favored by the heavens. "Old General, I trust you have been well since we last met. When once you came to Zhou State this time, I should have paid you a visit long ago. However, because of some trivial matters I didn't come. Please forgive me, Old General." Xia Wenshu was also secretly sizing up Zhou State's #1 fierce general, the old Marshal Saint General. After welcoming Xia Wenshu into the residence, Yunba chatted with him as they walked. The two of them were quite congenial. This was Xia Wenshu's first time coming to the general's residence. He had come today to reply to Yunba about the birthday banquet, but in his heart, he wanted to see the reason behind Yunba's bloody disaster this time. Logically speaking, Yunba was only 60 years old this year. To the cultivators of the boundless continent, 60 years old wasn't the age of destiny. Instead, it was the time when one's martial strength and battle chi reached their peak. Xia Wenshu was good at reading people's faces. As soon as Yunba stepped forward, he observed the other party's complexion, steps, and aura. With a single glance, Xia Wenshu discovered something unusual. From the outside, Yunba's body looked very healthy. He walked like a dragon or a tiger, and his voice was loud and powerful. It didn't seem like he was sick at all. "I will pass the message, but whether little wild cat goes or not is her business." Actually, Yi Baiming wanted to say that if Xia Wenshu also wanted to go, he would definitely not let little wild cat go. "Then I will have to trouble Lord Baiming." Xia Wenshu nodded and turned to leave. "Wait a minute, Xia Siming. I heard that the Siming of the Dharma Temple has always been emotionless. Why do you care about the Yun residence?" Yi Baiming asked from behind. Xia Wenshu did not say a word and directly left. Yi Baiming stayed in the medical center for a while before returning to Wushuan Wuji building. Yun Shang was in the medical center. She and Little Wild Bird were sitting on the ground. In front of them were 7 or 8 musical instruments. At the same time, there were 7 or 8 musicians in the medical center. "Master, are you sure you want to learn these musical instruments?" Early in the morning, Xiao Chan had just finished participating in the outer pavilion's trial, when Yunsheng mysteriously dragged him over. After asking, she found out that Yunsheng said she wanted to learn musical instruments. To be exact, she wanted to learn the first 3 movements of the Song of Confucius after learning the musical instruments. Yes, I want to learn the 4 arts. I can't know all of them, but at least I need to know how to play a musical instrument. Only then can I show that your master is well educated and knowledgeable, Yunsheng said with certainty. Little Wild Bird was speechless. She had never seen a young lady as well educated and knowledgeable as her master. She would definitely not tell Little Wild Bird that the reason she wanted to learn musical instruments was because she had seen the effects of Yuan Bupo's Di Hong song. Chapter 391. Earlier on, Yunsheng had only heard the Di Hong song played by Oriole, and thought that it was just SOSO. However, when she was taming the Hellfire, Yuan Bupo played the last few chapters of the Di Hong song, which opened Yunsheng's eyes. At the moment when the Di Hong song was played, she could feel that Yuan Bupo's cultivation had increased tremendously. He was only a few steps away from taming the Hellfire. If Yunsheng did not have the Shenong medical bangle and the 5 elemental Dharma spirit, she would not be able to compare to Yuan Bupo. Although Yunsheng's current abilities were not bad, she was far from the top. Even if she was a summoner, it was because of the summoning demon hand. However, Yunsheng did not want to rely on the summoning demon hand too much. After all, it was a magical weapon. If she was not careful, she would be discovered. A man's wealth was his own ruin. With Yunsheng's current abilities, she could not protect the magical weapon. In a short period of time, the Di Hong song was the only safe way to increase her cultivation. Oriole used a pipa. It was said that Yun Songlong's sweetheart, Yuan Shahua, used a guzheng. Yuan Bupo himself used a piccolo. This meant that any musical instrument could play the Di Hong song. Yunsheng knew nothing about musical instruments. Out of desperation, she thought of choosing the same musical instrument among all the other musical instruments. Therefore, after thinking for a while, Yunsheng decided that she wanted to learn musical instruments. There were all kinds of musical instruments in the Wuji continent. For example, the guzheng, the pipa, the eru, the bell, the shao, the sheng, the guzheng, the flute, and so on. Looking at the style, there were all kinds of musical instruments. Yunsheng invited a few musicians. Each of them performed in front of her once. Then, she planned to choose the most suitable musical instrument. All of you play it once. I'll memorize the playing method. Yunsheng was quite confident in learning musical instruments. She had a good memory. She thought that as long as she memorized the fingering method of each musician, it would be fine. But this time Yunsheng was gravely mistaken. When Yi Baiming arrived, Yunsheng was halfway through her work. A sharp, ear-piercing, terrifying demonic sound, like morning music, reverberated endlessly in the medicine hall. It turned out that Yunsheng was playing the eru. Don't be afraid of a fool singing, but be afraid of a musical idiot playing music. The musicians all had bitter looks on their faces, as if they had swallowed 10 flies. They were all famous musicians in the Jade capital. When they saw that the musical instruments they were good at had all become weapons of murder in Yunsheng's hands, all of them felt miserable beyond words. Ah, that's strange. The tone is not right. Yunsheng clearly remembered that she had memorized their fingering technique very well, but when she played, the sound changed. The songs she used for practice were naturally not Di Hong song. They were all famous songs from Zhou State. Master, I don't think you're suitable to learn music. Why don't you give up? She was about to cry when she heard the words. It is indeed terrible. Yi Baiming also felt that his ears were buzzing. Musical instruments are not played like this. Yi Baiming casually picked up a guqin. It was a guqin made of willow wood. He tuned the strings and plucked the strings. His eyebrows were lowered, and his eyelashes fluttered like a butterfly flapping its wings. His long fingers with distinct joints plucked the strings. An ancient song, Seeking a Phoenix, lingered endlessly in the medicine hall. The mellow male voice and the beautiful sound of the guqin complemented each other seamlessly. The musicians could not help but clap along with the beautiful sound of the guqin. Kair also closed her eyes to listen. After the song, Yunsheng jumped up and patted her chest. I've decided. I want to learn the guqin. Yunsheng did not have a sense of music. There was no other reason why she patted her chest and wanted to learn the guqin. The scene of the handsome man playing the guqin and the smoke from the incense burner at the side was a classic example of pretentiousness. If she, Yunsheng, could play such a song one day, just thinking about the scene made her blood boil. However, Yunsheng was also very strange. How could Yi Baiming know how to play the guqin? She had never seen him play the guqin when they were in Jiaoya village. Besides, he was blind when he was young. How did he learn to play the guqin? Instead, it was the Oriole beside her who answered her doubts. Lord Baiming's guqin skills are indeed outstanding. It is rumored that Lord Baiming learned to play the blind guqin at the age of 3. At the age of 6, his guqin skills were the best in the harem. Now that I've seen him today, he really lives up to his reputation. Yi Baiming stroked the strings of the guqin with some emotion. When he was playing the guqin just now, he had also recalled some old memories. He started learning the blind guqin at the age of 3. The reason for learning the guqin was very simple. It was because his mother, Empress Li, was an expert in the guqin. Empress' mother would often burn incense and bathe at night, play the guqin, and wait for the arrival of the Emperor of Zhou State. However, there were almost 20 days in a month when the Emperor of Zhou State would not come. Although Yi Baiming was young, he could feel that his mother would be unhappy whenever Imperial Father did not come. In order to make his mother happier, he pestered her to learn the guqin. Empress Li was also a smart person. In order to make it easier for Yi Baiming to practice the guqin, she had once created a very special blind guqin. Yi Baiming did not need to use his eyes. He could rely on the touch of his fingers to play beautiful music. After learning it for a year, Yi Baiming was able to play the guqin freely at the imperial banquet. As a result, he was known as the #1 expert in the imperial harem of Zhou State. However, after Empress Li's death, Yi Baiming had never touched the guqin again. Who would have thought that today, for Yunsheng's whim, he would play a song? Oriole, give them their wages and send the musicians away. Yunsheng saw Yi Baiming sitting next to the guqin, looking down at it with a myriad of thoughts in his eyes. She knew that he must have recalled some memories. Since you want to learn the guqin, just find this prince. There is no need to trouble outsiders. His thoughts suddenly stopped. Yi Baiming hooked his finger at Yunsheng, his eyes full of temptation. Yunsheng had something to ask of him, so she was too lazy to care about outsiders. She immediately ran over without any integrity. Like a little pug, she obediently nestled beside Yi Baiming, very obedient. Yi Baiming found it somewhat funny, but in his heart, he loved Yunsheng's rare docility. Yi Baiming taught, Yunsheng learned. Unknowingly, more than an hour had passed. Yunsheng had just barely learned the basics of the guqin. If only your musical sense had 10% of your medical talent. Yi Baiming finished teaching and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. He had always thought that this little wild cat could learn anything. He did not expect that she would also have a difficult time. Just now, when he saw her look like she wanted to chop the guqin with firewood, he had the urge to laugh out loud. Do you think that everyone is like you and can learn anything easily? Yunsheng was not in a good mood. If it were not for the Dihong song, she would not be willing to learn the guqin. But speaking of which, can this guqin withstand magic or combat skills? Yunsheng wanted to play the Dihong song. She remembered that whether it was Yuan Bupo or Xian Mimi, their instruments were not ordinary. Sure enough, Yi Baiming broke Yunsheng's fantasy. No, if you have the idea of using the guqin as a weapon, I advise you to give up. The guqin is very fragile. If you want to achieve the effect of combat skills or magic, you need at least a sacred level guqin. Those are treasures that can only be found but not sought. Yunsheng thought that when she practiced the guqin better, maybe she could entrust Zhou Qingchuan to find a guqin through the influence of the everlasting Chamber of Commerce. However, these words were brought back by Xia Wenxiu, so the meaning is different. I'm afraid that something will happen to old General Yun. Putting aside Yi Baiming's personal grudges with the Dharma Temple, Xia Wenxiu's heavens, I was very effective. Although he didn't like Xia Wenxiu, Yi Baiming would never allow anything to happen to Yunsheng because of his personal likes and dislikes. To Yunsheng, the residence of Yun was where her roots were. Yi Baiming understood very well that Yunsheng was a classic example of a person who was hard on the outside but soft on the inside. Her personality was exactly the same as old General Yun. She kept saying that she didn't like the residence of Yun, but from the last time when she helped Tang Yu, it could be seen that the residence of Yun's position in her heart was no less than little Xiantong. You're saying? Something will happen to old General Yun's birthday banquet this time? Yun Shang's expression changed when she heard this. It's better to be safe than sorry. If you don't want to go as a descendant of the Yun family, you can go as Wushuan Limitless Martial School, Yi Baiming reminded. The relationship between Yun Ba and Wushuan Limitless Martial School was no small matter. The deputy head of the Wushuan Limitless Martial School was also promoted by Yun Ba. Yun Shang pondered for a moment, but still couldn't make up her mind. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Soon, the day of Yun Ba's 60th birthday arrived. On the day of the birthday, the entire residence of Yun was filled with joy. Yun Ba had also changed into a festive outfit. He had been on the battlefield all year round and was used to wearing a helmet and armor. Not wearing a helmet all of a sudden really made him feel a little uncomfortable. There was an endless stream of people who came to congratulate the Martial Saint General on his 60th birthday. But in Yun Ba's heart, he hoped to see his granddaughter, Yun Shang, come to acknowledge him as her master. Yun Songlong also rushed back. However, since he had left the residence of Yun Ba, he didn't greet the guests with the attitude of a master. Yun Songshua acted like the mistress of the residence of Yun Ba, receiving guests from all over the place. Why are you alone? Yun Ba was unhappy to see that Yun Songlong was alone. He blew at his beard. The brothers of the hunting corps are outside. They said there were too many people and they didn't dare to barge in. Yun Songlong replied. Yun Ba shook his beard and stared blankly. Just as he was speaking, he suddenly heard the guard shout, "Guests have arrived. Elder Chen's family has arrived." Yun Ba's expression became even worse. He muttered, "Those who should be here didn't come, but those who shouldn't have come are here." Elder Chen's face was full of congratulations. "Old General Yun, congratulations, congratulations. This is just a small gift." Behind him was a group of children and grandchildren. The most outstanding of them was naturally the future crown princess, Chan Lianer. "You brought a group of children and grandchildren over to celebrate my birthday. What is the meaning of this?" Yun Ba was furious when he saw this. After Elder Chun finished his congratulations, he pretended to look around. Why don't I see His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress? Even His Majesty the Crown Prince didn't come? The Emperor of Zhou State didn't come personally to celebrate the birthday of an old official. He only ordered the palace eunuchs to send over a big gift. It seemed that Tang Yu's incident had more or less affected the Yun residents. Yun Ba's face darkened. Just as he was about to explode, he suddenly heard the guard shout, "Guests have arrived. Imperial Consort Wenren has arrived." Imperial Consort? Imperial Consort Wenren was the most favored consort of the Emperor of Zhou State other than the Empress. Other than the Empress, she was also the only imperial concubine with a son. It was just that her son was still young, and her family was also a prominent family in Jade Capital. However, Imperial concubine Wenren kept a low profile and rarely interacted with the court officials outside of her own family. This time, she personally came out of the palace to congratulate the Yun residents. It was quite rare. For Old General's birthday, this consort has specially sent over a Southern Sea jade coral. Imperial consort Wenren's appearance was very delicate. Her facial features were quite similar to Wenren Xiu's. She came this time because of Wenren Xiu. Her troublemaking younger brother had told her that Yun Shang of the Yun residence had helped him a lot, and asked her to take care of the Yun residence. When Tang Yu's incident happened, the fourth prince was unwell. Imperial consort Wenren couldn't even take care of herself, so she didn't intervene. This time she came personally to congratulate old General Yun on his birthday. The Emperor and the Empress didn't come, but a consort came. This could be considered as giving some face to Yun Ba. Elder Chun snorted. Yun Ba's back also straightened a little. Just as he welcomed Imperial consort Wenren in, he suddenly heard another voice, "Welcome. Yujing's Soldier Hunting Union has sent over a gift." The Soldier Hunting Union sent over a gift because of Yun Songlong and Yen Yun. Even the Soldier Hunting Union was related to the Yun residents? The guests discussed animatedly. They didn't expect the general's residence, which was rumored to be on the verge of collapse, to have so many forces behind it. Thank you for your tip 070 and 960 drops. Monday twist and twist for tickets. There will be more in the afternoon. Chapter 393. Suddenly, he heard someone say, "Welcome. The everlasting Chamber of Commerce has sent 1,000-year-old profound snow ginseng." A classless Chamber of Commerce? Yunba couldn't remember when he had established a relationship with the everlasting Chamber of Commerce. However, he didn't mind receiving too many gifts, so he just accepted it first. Yunba looked to the side at Elder Chan, whose expression was getting uglier and uglier. In his heart, he felt more carefree than if he had drunk 10 jeans of good wine. A guest has arrived. Xia Ximing from the Dharma Temple has arrived with a gift. Xia Wenshu walked into the crowded general's mansion and looked around. He was disappointed to find that Yun Sheng wasn't here. Guests and gifts came in waves. In the hall there was an endless stream of guests, but Yunba didn't see the person he wanted to see the most. In the end, he was already a little irritable, his old eyes staring at every guest that came in, as if he had a grudge against them for killing his son and stealing his wife. The guests were so scared that their hair stood on end, their faces pale as they took their seats. The birthday banquet was about to start, and the guests outside the Yun mansion were getting fewer and fewer. Yunba couldn't help but feel disheartened. Just as he was about to take his seat, he suddenly heard a shout from the door. The Wushuan Everlasting Hall's deputy director has led a group of disciples here to celebrate the birthday. Zhanli strode in with a few disciples behind him. When Yunba saw them, his old eyes immediately became clear. Yunba was delighted and was about to go welcome the guests. His originally disappointed expression immediately disappeared. Behind Zhanli were a few of his favorite disciples. They were the limitless three talents Yi Baiming, Bu Jiuxiao, Changbai Yunshang, and a few other female disciples. When Yun Songlong saw his niece, he was also very happy, but Yun Songshua's face was gloomy. "Old General, Zhanli came late, please forgive me." Zhanli handed over a gift. "It's good that you're here, there's no need to bring gifts. We're all family. Yunba's old face was smiling like a chrysanthemum, his iron palms fiercely slapping Zhanli's shoulders. His eyes couldn't stop staring at his granddaughter. Zhanli's eyes were wide open from the slaps, and he had a crying face. Yun Shang pretended to ignore him. She had struggled for a long time today, and finally under Zhanli's persuasion she came. Yun Shang was still worried about Yunba's health. He was old but strong. After seeing her granddaughter, his face glowed with health. He didn't look like he had any mishap at all. Yun Shang was a little puzzled. Her pair of beautiful eyes looked around, wanting to find Xia Wenshu and ask him what was going on. Coincidentally, she was met with Xia Wenshu's kind smile. When they saw this person they discussed endlessly. Zhou State revered martial arts. To be able to make the martial artists of Zhou State so agitated, the other party must also be a peerless martial artist. Tian Kezi. Heavens, am I seeing things? It's the later Qin martial saint Tian Kezi. To be able to see two martial saints of the current era in one day. For many martial artists, tonight was definitely an unforgettable night. Tian Kezi? Wasn't that the later Qin martial saint who fought to a draw with Yun Ba in the battle where Yun Songlong was seriously injured? Because of this, the three nations had no choice but to sign an armistice agreement, and the Grand Emperor's conspiracy had failed? When Yun Shang saw these three people, her heart skipped a beat. Could this be the thing that Xia Wenshu said was about to happen in the Yun residence? It was Yunba's 60th birthday, and the later Qin crown prince and later Qin martial saint, as well as Xian Wuji, who was at odds with the Yun residence, had all paid a visit at the same time. This matter was definitely not simple. "Old General Yun, long time no see. How have you been? Why didn't you inform Tian Kezi that it's your 60th birthday? I also wanted to come and ask for a cup of wine to drink." When the burly man saw Yun Ba, he laughed as if he had seen a close friend of many years. "Old brother Tian, you really like to joke. The wine in the Yun residence is just ordinary wine. How could we dare to trouble you to come and ask for wine?" Yun Ba also knew that those who came did not come with good intentions. He slowly got up. Although he spoke in a jovial manner, his gaze was as sharp as a fierce tiger's. While Yunba and Tiankazi were having a war of words, the hidden crown prince's thoughts were focused on finding the person he was looking for. He had already found out that the summoner called Yin Yun's true identity was Sun Si of the Yun residence. She was the former sky sorcerer and the only daughter of Yun Songhai. Today was Yunba's birthday, and he was sure that Yun Sheng would be present. There were countless people present, but the hidden crown prince fixed his gaze on Yun Sheng. It was her. Chapter 394. The Dark Crown Prince's gaze landed on Yun Sheng and his eyes narrowed slightly. When he saw the delicate and refined young lady behind Zhonli, even though her appearance was very different from the one he had seen before, her facial features, especially that pair of bright eyes, were unforgettable. The Dark Crown Prince's thin lips pursed together and curled up slightly, revealing a cruel smile. In almost a second, he confirmed Yun Sheng's identity. A trace of astonishment and surprise flashed across his eyes. His heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat's paw. Just thinking about her made him excited. This kind of explicit gaze made Yun Sheng very uncomfortable. The Dark Crown Prince's gaze was as if he was stripping off her clothes one by one. She was completely naked and it made her feel humiliated. Yun Sheng lifted her head and glared fiercely at the Dark Crown Prince with her beautiful eyes. In the Dark Crown Prince's eyes, Yun Sheng's actions were unruly and delicate. If it wasn't for the fact that there were people around, he would have already laughed out loud. Whether it was the grandson of the Yun residents or Yin Yun, He Duguxiu was definitely going to be hers. Just as the Dark Crown Prince was recklessly sizing up his prey, two displeased gazes shot over. The Dark Crown Prince frowned and noticed the two people. One person was like the stars in the night sky, hiding in the dark. The other person was like the warm sun in winter, emitting a luster that was hard to ignore. Right at this moment, Yunba suddenly changed the topic. It's fine if Brother Tian is here to ask for wine. But could it be that the Dark Crown Prince and young City Lord Xian are also here to ask for wine? Everyone's gaze turned toward the Dark Crown Prince. Although Zhou State and later Qin State weren't at war, the Crown Prince of another state had entered the capital of another state without prior notice. This would inevitably raise the alarm. The Dark Crown Prince faintly smiled. Although he was smiling, his smile caused others to feel a chill run down their spines. He glanced around and his gaze landed on Yun Sheng. Yunba's question interrupted the three people's exchange of glances. Yunba also noticed the young man who came with Tiankazi, and could tell that he had an extraordinary identity. However, he didn't expect that person to be the Dark Crown Prince. Old General, there's no need to panic. Xiu came to the Jade Capital today to congratulate you on your birthday, and also for the purple gold or vein at the border. The Dark Crown Prince retracted his gaze. It seemed that the lass had many protectors by her side. But it didn't matter. The law of the jungle was the Dark Prince's hobby. Yunba immediately understood what was going on when he heard about the purple gold mine. It seemed that the news of the purple gold mine had been leaked. Chapter 395. The Emperor of Zhou State still came in the end. Today was the birthday banquet of the Yun residents. The Emperor of Zhou State did not personally attend because he wanted to give the Yun residents the cold shoulder. However, the Emperor of Zhou State ordered people to keep an eye on the Yun residents. In just a few hours, the name list and background of every guest who entered the Yun residence appeared in the imperial study of the Emperor of Zhou State. However, who would have thought that such an ordinary birthday banquet would cause such a huge uproar? The mixed forces of various worlds even led to a war. This was something that the Emperor of Zhou State did not expect. As soon as the Emperor of Zhou State appeared, the Yun residence was immediately surrounded. Countless crossbows and imperial mages were lying in ambush in the dark. As long as the Emperor of Zhou State gave the order, no one in the Yun residence would be able to escape. The Emperor of Zhou State was dressed in a bright yellow imperial robe. He walked with a majestic gait and his aura was unparalleled. Long live the Emperor! Thunderous cheers came from both inside and outside the Yun residence. However, the Dark Prince and the others stood calmly. The Emperor of Zhou State could not help but show some anger on his face. His anger was not only directed at the Dark Crown Prince and the others, it was also directed at Yun Songlong and the others. The purple gold mine was divided into two. He originally thought that half of it had fallen into Tang Yuan's hands. However, after hearing the Dark Prince's words, the whereabouts of the ore were unknown. The Emperor of Zhou State's first suspect was the Sky Hunting Corps. What exactly is going on? Yun Songlong Yin Yun. I have already given you full authority over the purple gold mine. Could it be that you dare to deceive the Emperor and embezzle the purple gold mine without permission? The Emperor of Zhou State was furious. Yun Songlong was speechless. Seeing this, Yun Sheng walked out calmly. In front of nearly 1,000 people in the Yun residence, Yun Sheng was calm and said in a crisp voice, "Your Majesty is wise. The Sky Hunting Corps is loyal to Zhou State. The sun and moon can bear witness. Our hunting corps is just a newly established hunting corps. Even with all of our elites, we only have a few dozen hunters. When they entered the mine that day, for the sake of the safety of the villagers, all of them participated in the rescue. Where would they find the manpower to plunder the remaining ores? If the Emperor did not believe it, he could ask the villagers in the mining area and the border guards. If His Majesty still did not believe it, he could ask the young city lord of Grand Emperor City. He was also in the mining area that day. If there is a single lie, my heavenly extermination hunting corps will be at His Majesty's mercy." When the Zhou State's emperor heard this, he realized that with the size and numbers of the Heaven Hunting Army, it was impossible for them to kill hundreds of Tang Yuan's mages at the same time. Is this the young city lord of Grand Emperor City? May I ask if you noticed anything suspicious about the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps that day? The Zhou State Emperor was unable to find a witness for the time being, but Xian Wuji was a ready-made witness. Xian Wuji did not expect that Yun Sheng would suddenly change the topic to him. This young city lord did not pay attention. Did young city lord really not pay attention, or was he pretending not to? Or did young city lord have other plans at that time? For example, secretly sneaking in and stealing the remaining ores? Yun Sheng's voice was stern as she suddenly questioned Xian Wuji. She already knew that Xian Wuji harbored evil intentions in the Jade capital, but she did not expect him to be in hiding for so long and actually act together with the later Qin's hidden prince. When Yun Sheng said this, the Zhou State's emperor and the hidden prince could not help but become suspicious. The Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps did not have the strength to act on both sides, but it was different if it was the Grand Emperor City. With the thousands of years of foundation of the Grand Emperor City, it was not impossible for them to find out the location of the ore vein and secretly rob it. Xian Wuji almost cursed it out loud. He pointed at Yun Sheng and said, "Yin Yun, you are slandering us. My Grand Emperor City has never plundered a single piece of purple gold ore. What are your intentions for slandering my Grand Emperor City?" "Enough." The hidden prince's cold eyes narrowed, appearing very impatient. He was not here to listen to a confrontation. No matter who stole the remaining purple gold ore, the Zhou State and Tang Yuan broke the alliance first. My later Qin must have a share of the loot. Since the Zhou State's emperor has personally come, then this crown prince will ask one thing. Is Zhou State handing over the ore or not? When had the Zhou State's emperor been questioned like this? Even if the later Qin's emperor personally came, the Zhou State's emperor might not lower his voice. He was immediately enraged. "Dugu Xiao, you are only the later Qin's crown prince. What qualifications do you have to negotiate with this emperor? With the 200,000 allied troops of my later Qin and Tang Yuan, we have already arrived at the southern border of Zhou State. If the Zhou State's emperor is not willing to hand over the ore, we must fight this battle." 200,000 troops. The Zhou State's emperor's heart skipped a beat. For a moment he couldn't help but panic. In these years, the Zhou State's generals had withered, and Yun Songlong had just resigned from the military. If this battle really started, the Zhou State wouldn't be fully prepared. Tang Yuan and the later Qin soldiers would be like wolves and tigers. The possibility of victory was extremely low. Thinking of this, the Zhou State's emperor's expression softened. He was an ingrate and knew how to observe people's expressions. He was like this when he was a prince, and he was still like this now. "Hidden prince, there must be a misunderstanding. If you don't believe me, I can order someone to take you to the smelter to check. My Zhou State really only obtained a quarter of the purple gold ore." The Zhou State's emperor's words were already filled with anxiety. When the Zhou State's officials saw this, including Yunba and the others, they all felt dissatisfied. In the eyes of the generals, the Zhou State's emperor's humble appearance could be said to be extremely cowardly. Yunshang couldn't understand. She faintly felt that the whole thing was very wrong. Could it be that after those mysterious people used the magic array to transfer the purple gold, or something else happened? Thinking of the magic array in the mining area that suddenly lost its effect overnight, it seemed that this matter was really a bit strange. Yunsheng's heart skipped a beat. She glanced at Yi Baiming, only to see him smiling and throwing her a coquettish glance. Could it be? Your Highness, why don't you listen to this official's words? Tian Keizi, who hadn't spoken since he entered the room, suddenly spoke at this time. Master Tian, if you have something to say, just say it. The hidden prince was still very respectful towards Tian Keizi. Tian Keizi was the later Qin's martial saint. In later Qin, he was the head of the later Qin's #1 martial arts hall, the 7 Stars Martial Arts Hall. When the hidden prince was young, he had learned combat skills in the 7 Stars Martial Arts Hall. This official thinks that when the 3 countries fought, blood would flow like rivers and the people would be plunged into misery and suffering. Later Qin, Zhou State, and Tang Yuan 8 years ago, for the sake of that purple gold or vein, the border area was filled with starving people. Every time this official thinks of that miserable scene, this official feels endless heartache. Tian Keizi's voice was full of emotion. From his appearance, it seemed that he wasn't a martial artist, but a great scholar who worried about the country and the people. Yunba cursed in his heart as he listened. Tian Keizi had a good reputation outside, but he was actually a hypocrite. Yunba despised people like him the most. However, his rash words already vaguely made Yunba have a bad feeling. Xiao Wenxiu, who had left the Yun residence with Yunshang and the others, turned back. You should take a look at old General Yun. I've divined for him. He will face a bloody disaster in the near future. Young Master Ming, how could you? Yu Ji and Yu Mo's expressions changed. How could young Master Ming say the results of her divination? This was divulging heavenly secrets and was very disadvantageous for young Master Ming. Xiao Wenxiu originally only wanted to give Yunsheng a hint, but who knew that the Dark Prince and Tian Keizi would suddenly appear? Xiu, I remember you. You're the girl who stole our carriage. Good, nothing good happens every time we meet you. Last time, Yu Ji sized up Yunsheng and was shocked. This female sorcerer was the female sorcerer they met 2 years ago. After not seeing her for more than 2 years, her appearance had changed quite a bit. What was even more shocking was her strength. Yu Ji and Umo both discovered that Yunsheng, who was just an ordinary sorcerer 2 years ago, was now a master sorcerer. In 2 years she had broken through 2 magic realms. Even in the temple, people couldn't help but raise their eyebrows at such a cultivation level. Yu Ji, shut up. Xiao Wenxiu's expression hardened. Yu Ji rarely saw young Master Ming get angry, so he blamed Yunsheng even more. However, Umo glanced sideways at Yunsheng. If he didn't remember wrongly, young Master Ming had done something that went against his usual behavior because of her. Thank you for your reminder, Xiao Wenxiu. I'll remember this favor. After hearing Xiao Wenxiu's words, Yunsheng also knew that Yunba's body might really have some hidden dangers. She had to carefully examine him. Are you afraid of being found out and embarrassing? Yunsheng countered. As expected, Yunba became anxious after hearing her words. Who said that this old man has geriatric disease? This old man eats 3 bowls of rice every meal. If you want to check, then so be it. I'm not afraid of you, Yunba said as he sat down. Yunsheng stepped forward and began to examine him. After a round of examination, Yunsheng didn't find anything out of the ordinary. How is it? This old man's body is very good. I can cripple that guy Tian Keizi with a single punch. He dared to behave atrociously at this old man's birthday banquet. This time, this old man will definitely make those old fellows from later Qin and Tang Yuan suffer a double loss. Yunba was extremely pleased with himself. The examination isn't over yet. What's there to be proud of? Yunsheng was annoyed. She pressed down on Yunba's wrist with the back of her hand. If there was nothing wrong with Yun Ba's body, there shouldn't be any problems with the competition. But what should she say about a bloody disaster? Her brows twitched, and the jade marrow technique in her body quietly entered Yun Ba's body. The jade marrow technique in Yun Sheng's body was a Taoist technique. It was used to cultivate one's body and mind. It was the best way to use it to nourish one's body. At the same time, it also gave Yun Sheng the sharpest sense of touch. Yun Ba's cultivation was very high. The moment the strange power in Yun Sheng's body entered his body, the fighting aura in his body immediately reacted. What kind of skill is this, little girl? It's not fighting aura, nor is it sorcery. Yun Ba quickly discovered that his fighting aura had changed from its initial irritable state to a peaceful state. It actually automatically gave way to the jade marrow technique in Yun Sheng's body. Yun Sheng's jade marrow technique circulated all over Yun Ba's body. His muscles, blood, Yun Sheng's expression changed slightly. She retracted her finger as if it had been pricked by a needle. Inside Yun Ba's body, the change in her expression was very subtle, but it didn't escape the eyes of the three people present. Yun Songlong understood Yun Sheng's personality very well. This girl was the calmest. Last time, even when she was treating his hand, she was still calm. But just now her expression changed. How is it? Yun Songlong hurriedly asked. Little girl, there's no need to act mysterious. Just tell me whether it's good or bad. This old man can take it. Yun Ba saw the change in Yun Sheng's expression. This competition cannot be carried out. Yun Sheng also knew that it was useless to hide anything in front of Yun Ba. She might as well get straight to the point. Why can't it be carried out? There's nothing wrong with this old man's body. If he hadn't seen Yun Sheng's medical skills with his own eyes, Yun Ba would have immediately turned and left. There's nothing wrong with your body, but this competition cannot be carried out. In other words, there's nothing wrong with a normal person. But if the opponent is Tian Kezi, then it's a different matter. Yun Sheng frowned. Old General, there's something wrong with your blood. You can't carry out Beast Blood Berserk. Beast Blood Berserk was the ultimate way for a martial practitioner to unleash their potential. Martial practitioners were different from magicians and summoners. They didn't have heaven-defying magic, nor did they have summoned beasts to assist them. Their only advantage was that during the process of advancing in the martial realm, they had fused with the blood of countless beasts, forming a tyrannical physique. When Yun Sheng was examining Yun Ba's body just now, she discovered that his body's condition had indeed improved compared to a few months ago. This should be because Yun Ba had stopped drinking. But when she used the jade marrow technique to examine him further, she discovered that there was something wrong with Yun Ba's blood. Yun Sheng could feel that as soon as Yun Ba's blood came into contact with internal energy, it would become abnormally active. It was like a river after a rainstorm, aggressive and aggressive. Under such circumstances, if Yun Ba mobilized all the fighting aura in his body, once he was injured, it was very likely that his blood would flow in reverse and eventually break out of his body. Yun Songlong and Uncle Yun were astonished. Little girl, what do you mean by that? What's wrong with this old man's blood? Yun Ba was a martial saint. In his life, every time he broke through in the martial realm, he would undergo a beast blood fusion. His last beast blood fusion was when he killed a commander-level demonic beast. After fusing with its blood, he advanced to martial saint. Without beast blood berserk, this meant that Yun Ba was bound to lose this competition. After going berserk once, I'm afraid that if it's light, you'll lose all of your do qi. If it's serious, you'll be crippled. If you're not careful and get injured by the enemy, you'll die from blood loss. Yun Sheng said word by word. Yun Sheng did not sound like she was joking at all. She was serious. She even wanted to persuade Yun Ba not to force himself, just like Uncle Yun. This old man is tired. Yun Song, see the guests out. Yun Ba closed his eyes tiredly and raised his hand, gesturing for the guests to leave. Yun Ba had already made up his mind. He would rather fail in the beast blood mineralization and die than flee at the last minute and become the laughingstock of the entire Zhou state. Uncle Yun could only leave with Yun Songlong and Yun Sheng. Uncle Yun, I'll have to trouble you to bring over the old general's daily diet and the medicinal pills he takes for me to see. Even though Yun Ba had already made up his mind, Shang still suspected that Yunba's current condition was caused by someone. If she could be sure that it was man-made, then there might be a chance to turn the situation around. Yunba's diet had always been personally taken care of by Uncle Yun, so he quickly brought over all of Yunba's diet and elixirs for Shang to take a look. Shang looked through them one by one and did not find any problems. That's all? Uncle Yun, think about it again. Is there anything else that we missed? Shang reminded Uncle Yun. There's really nothing else. The old general is now doing idle work in the imperial court and doesn't have the habit of socializing outside. If there's really something that we missed. Oh right, third Miss cooks soup for the old master every day. Uncle Yun suddenly remembered this matter. Apart from the daily diet and elixirs that he had personally arranged, there was only third Miss soup. Yun Songshua cooks soup? What kind of soup is it? Shang had also noticed that she had not seen Yun Songshua after the incident at the Yun residence. Logically speaking, with such a big incident happening at the birthday banquet and Yun Songshua being the actual ruler of the Yun residence, how could she not ask about it? It's all ordinary chicken soup and ginseng soup. The old master drinks a bowl of it every afternoon. Uncle Yun also felt a little strange. Why did Shang suddenly ask about this? Uncle Yun, from tomorrow onwards, secretly instruct the servants to leave some of the soup for the old general. Remember to send the leftover soup to the medical hall, Shang instructed. Sure, are you suspecting third sister? That's impossible. How could third sister harm father? Yun Songlong did not believe her. I'm just suspecting. Let me see the leftover soup first. Shang also brought back a portion of the elixirs that Yunba had taken. As the night deepened, Yunba sat alone in the room. Ever since his wife died more than 20 years ago, he had not remarried and lived alone in the huge courtyard. In the courtyard, the red lanterns used at the birthday banquet swayed in the night wind. Yunba walked out of the courtyard alone. He opened his arms and looked at his palms. Compared to the past, his hands had aged quite a bit. Yunba's figure flashed and he had already rushed out of the courtyard. Who's there? The hidden guards hiding in the courtyard of the Yun residence were alarmed. It's me. You don't have to follow me. This old man is going out for a walk. After Yunba finished speaking, his voice had already become one with the night, disappearing into the boundless night. The streets of the Jade capital were already empty. Yunba walked along the long street until he reached the little Ci Intong. He did not make a sound and did not alarm anyone in the medical hall. He entered the courtyard of the medical hall and walked into an unlocked room. This was a narrow but tidy room. There were only some simple furniture inside and a person was lying on the bed. Within the icy blue sleeping cloud dream magic formation, Yun Songhai was as silent as he had been for countless days and nights in the past. He seemed to be sleeping quietly without making a sound. Yunba walked around the head of the bed and sat on the side. He looked at the person on the bed who had once made him furious and was also the son he was most proud of in his life. One was lying quietly, the other was sitting without making a sound. Unknowingly, most of the night had passed. No one knew that in the past few months, Yunba would come to the little Xiantong every other day. He would sit there for 3 to 4 hours from midnight to dawn. Chapter 399. Unbeknownst to the people in the medical hall, Yunba sat beside the magic formation and scrutinized Yun Songhai. After finding out about Yun Shang's background, he went around and found out about Yun Songhai's whereabouts. When he saw Yun Songhai in this state for the first time, Yunba almost couldn't accept it. He even had the urge to beat Yun Songhai awake. However, when he came into contact with Yun Songhai's ice-cold hands and feet, and his almost still breathing, Yunba shrank back. However, tonight Yunba was a little different. Songhai, I'm afraid that I won't be able to come and see you in the future. He sat for a moment and said, You are much more capable than your old man. You raised a good daughter. It's a pity that I won't have the chance to see her grow up, get married and have children. You have to work harder and wake up. As long as you wake up, I won't chase you out of the house anymore. At this point, Yunba couldn't continue. He stood up abruptly and looked back at the firstborn, who was still unconscious in the magic circle. Then he walked out sadly. When Yunba walked out of the house, the Yun Dream Eye Slumber Magic Formation shone brightly with blue light. Yun Songhai, who had been unconscious for many days, suddenly had a trace of crystal at the corner of his eyes. A drop of hot tear slid down from the corner of his eye. A day later, Uncle Yun indeed followed Yun Shang's instructions and delivered the soup that Yun Songshua had brewed. After Yun Shang checked it, she found that there was nothing wrong with the soup. The remaining 2 days were the same. Uncle Yun secretly ordered Yun Songshua's maidservant to leave a portion of the soup, but she didn't find anything. Until the day before the competition, Yun Shang checked Yun Songshua's soup one last time, but she still didn't find any clues. Tomorrow was the day of the competition between Tian Kezi and Yun Ba. The news had already spread throughout the entire Jade capital. As the Great Zhou dynasty worshipped martial arts, the commoners of the Great Zhou dynasty looked forward to such competitions. However, the Jade capital was not Hunting Citadel after all. The commoners could not afford the tickets to the Hunting Citadel's arena. This time it was a competition between 2 martial sages of the Great Zhou dynasty. Furthermore, it was the Great Zhou's archenemy, Ho Qin. All the commoners of Jade capital fell into an unprecedented passion. In the city, many bets had already been set up. They were betting on the battle between the martial saints of the 2 countries. If the Emperor of Zhou State hadn't had the foresight to hold the competition in the Imperial Palace, just the tickets alone would have been a sizable income. But this time, Yun Shang had no intention of using this competition to make a killing. She was still worried about Yun Ba's health. Yun Shang, we have a way to sneak into the Imperial Palace. There's no poison in it. It's just an ordinary medicine. Yun Shang found it strange. This isn't poison in the ordinary sense. It's not poisonous in itself. Who prepared this medicine for old General Yun? How could they be so vicious? How long has old General Yun been taking this medicine? Even Qi, who was usually as calm as a cucumber, couldn't help but change his tone at this moment. About 3 months. This medicine was given to old General by Yun Songshua, the 3rd miss of the Yun residence. Yun Shang's heart sank. How could she be so careless? She had forgotten that Qi was the most knowledgeable about poisons. Why didn't she think of getting Qi to study it together? It was all her fault for being too confident. She thought that she could see through any illness or poison just because she was well versed in traditional Chinese and Western medicine, ancient medicine and magic medicine. Wasn't the 3rd miss of the Yun residence Yun Ba's daughter? Qi couldn't help but become cautious. He checked the medicine again to make sure that his and Little Green's judgment wasn't wrong. Qi, if you have something to say, just say it. No matter who it is, as long as I'm sure there's something wrong with this medicine, even if it's the Heavenly Emperor, I'll find out who it is. Yun Shang was extremely anxious. Yun Ba was going to compete tomorrow. At this critical juncture, how could she not be anxious after confirming that Yun Ba was really poisoned? If I'm not wrong, Yun Songshua added some magical beast amniotic fluid into the medicine that she gave old General Yun, Qi said slowly. Chapter 401. Xia Wenxu was surprised that Yun Shang had come in the middle of the night. Why are you looking for our Ximing in the middle of the night? Umo had an ominous feeling when he saw Yun Shang. Umo, don't talk too much. Bring me some tea. Xia Wenxu smiled faintly when he thought that Yun Shang would think of him when she was in trouble. Yun Shang hid the fact that Yun Songshua had poisoned Yun Ba, and told him that Yun Ba might have been poisoned by the amniotic fluid of magical beasts. I didn't expect that the poison in old General Yun's body would be amniotic fluid of magical beasts. Amniotic fluid poison, I've also heard of it in the Zhaoting. I just didn't think that it would be used on old General Yun. Xia Wenxu muttered to himself. He was very surprised by Yunqing's discovery. I'll get straight to the point. I came here today to ask for your help. I heard that the Dharma Temple has a high-level light magic that can purify a person's body. I want to ask you. Yun Shang hesitated for a moment but still said it. Xia Wenxu was startled when he heard it. I knew that nothing good would come out of you. Do you think that high-level light magic is like cabbage or radish that can be found everywhere? Our arbiter of fate can't use light magic casually, especially on people who are destined to die. Solitary Rain, who had just delivered the tea, immediately stomped his feet. Xiao Wenqiu also revealed an awkward expression. Because light magic was too heaven-defying, it really couldn't be used casually. However, when he saw the pleading look on Yun Shang's face, the rejection that was already at the tip of his tongue could not be said. Seeming. This time, even Umo, who usually didn't speak much, spoke up to oppose Xiao Wenqiu's help. He and Umo both knew that Yun Ba's matter wasn't simple this time. Although they didn't know about the existence of the heavenly fate mirror, Elder Seeming's letter had already stated that Yun Ba's death was destined to happen. Elder Seeming had also warned that Xiao Wenqiu only needed to protect Zhou State's royal family and not interfere in other matters. Young Judge Ming had always obeyed Elder Judge Ming's words, but this time was an exception. First, Xiao Ximing ignored their persuasion and recklessly told Yun Sheng that when Yun Ba was going to face a bloody disaster, she had already revealed part of the heaven's secret. Revealing the heaven's secret, even if it was just a small part, would cause a backlash in the future. If young Master Ming were to help Yun Ba, it would be going against the will of the heavens. It would affect his future cultivation. Yu Ji and Umo didn't dare to think any further. At this moment, the two of them were somewhat resentful towards Yun Sheng. Although they were still young and didn't know much about the matters between men and women, they have already discovered that since young Master Ming pretended to be GMO and entered the little Ciantong, young Master Ming became somewhat different. In the past, young Arbiter Ming was a woman of few words, like an ice sculpture. However, the current young Master Ming was clearly much more amiable. Just like his name, a smile would appear on his face from time to time. This was especially true for this female magus called Yun Sheng. When she appeared, young Master Ming's gaze towards her became as gentle as a ball of cotton, causing the two of them to whisper to each other. Disaster. He was a living source of calamity. Yun Sheng naturally didn't know that because of her appearance, the hearts of the two little magi in the Dharma temple had been turned upside down. In Xiao Wenqiu's heart, how could it not be the same? He also knew that he could openly reject Yun Sheng. Since Yun Ba's death was shown by the Heaven's Mandate Mirror, it was destined. No one could change it. However, if Yun Ba died, she would probably be very sad. Seeing the difficult expressions on the faces of the people in the Dharma temple, Yun Sheng thought that Xiao Wenqiu didn't want to harm his own magic power to save Yun Ba. Xiao Ximing, I won't let you waste your energy for nothing. If you save old General Yun, I will hand over the secret method to refine the tribute of the moon god. I believe that this secret method can raise the grade of the magic medicine in the Dharma temple by at least 1 grade. When Yun Sheng said this, Yu Ji and Umo, who were originally glaring angrily at Yun Sheng, were shocked. The two of them pointed at Yun Sheng and stammered, "What did you say? You were the one who refined the high-grade magic medicine, tribute of the moon god?" It was no wonder that Yu Ji and Umo were so shocked. In the past half a year, the appearance of this high-grade magic medicine on the mainland had caused almost all the magi in the Dharma temple to be in a terrible fix. All the magus apothecaries had tried to refine the tribute of the moon god, but even the most skilled magus apothecaries in the Dharma temple had failed. "Miss Yun, you don't have to do that," Xiao Wenqiu hurriedly said. He didn't know why, but he hated interacting with Yun Sheng in this way of bargaining. He only wanted to help her because he wanted to make her happy. He didn't know when it had started, but it might have been during his time in Little Ciantong, but he had already gotten used to it. Every evening, Yun Sheng stood in the medical hall and flipped through the daily accounts. Sometimes she frowned, sometimes she smiled faintly. The 2 dimples at the side of her mouth would cause him to fall into a daze. Umo almost spilled the tea that was about to be served. Had Ximing gone crazy? That was the tribute of the moon god. It was a high-grade magic medicine that could change a person's magic constitution and turn a good-for-nothing into a magus. If they could unravel the secret of this magic medicine, it would undoubtedly be extremely beneficial to the Dharma temple. Xiao Wenqiu waved his hand unhappily. "It's not that I don't want to save old General Yun, but just using light purification magic won't be able to cure the poison in old General Yun's body." Xiao Wenqiu had heard from Yun Sheng that Yun Ba had misused the amniotic fluid of magical beasts for 3 months. He was well versed in medicine and had a good understanding of the human body's condition. He knew that 3 months was neither too long nor too short a period of time. It was enough for the poison to seep into Yunba's internal organs. Even with high-level purification magic, it could only remove the amniotic fluid on the surface. But if they wanted to completely remove the amniotic fluid in Yunba's bones, internal organs and blood, magic alone would not be enough. What else do you need? I will definitely think of a way to prepare it. Yun Sheng had the everlasting Chamber of Commerce behind her. She believed that even if she couldn't cure Yunba's poison in a short period of time, she could definitely use the everlasting Chamber of Commerce's power to find other ingredients. But what Yun Sheng didn't expect was that the one that could cure Yunba's poison was actually, I'm afraid that you won't be able to prepare that item. That item is the fairy clan's water of life. The water of life can only be found in the depths of the immortal residence's sacred mountain of the fire fairies. The water of life is very precious. Even the fairy clan can't easily use it. And everyone knows that the fairy clan of the immortal residence hates humans the most. Also, looking at the time, it's already too late to go back and forth between the immortal residence and Zhou State. Xia Wenqiu sighed. Lord Baiming, Senior Brother Chang, Senior Brother Bu. When Tang Yu saw the three of them, it was as if he had seen his saviors. He shouted loudly for help. His eyes were more like a girl who had seen her sweetheart. How could there be any anticipation? Chang Bai shuddered and glared at Yi Baiming resentfully. It was all this kid's fault. Early in the morning before the rooster crowed, he was dragged out of bed by Yi Baiming and thrown into a magical array in a daze. When he woke up, he found himself in Buzhouxiao in the western region of Zhou State. It would take at least 10 days to travel from Yujing to the western region of Zhou State, even with flying magical beasts. Yi Baiming, on the other hand, used a magical array of unknown attributes to bring him and Buzhouxiao thousands of miles to the west. When he woke up and asked around, he found out that Yi Baiming was actually looking for Tang Yu. He was really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. He, Chang Bai, never had the chance to be a hero saving a damsel in distress. How could he have the chance to save a fatso? F*ck off, who's your senior brother? When Chang Bai heard Tang Yu's voice, which was even more feminine than a girl's, he felt goosebumps all over his body. A trash who had been kicked out of the dojo half a month after joining dared to call him senior brother. Bloody tycoon? Bu Jiuxiao frowned unhappily. What he noticed were the people in red who were quickly gathering around him. If he was not wrong, these people were the infamous assassins of the Bloody Tycoon. However, when did Yi Baiming provoke this group of people or? Bu Jiuxiao did not even bother to look at Tang Yu. This matter was related to the residents of Yun. Yi Baiming and the residents of Yun did not have much of a relationship. If there was a relationship, it would be because of Yun Shang. His pair of gray eyes were like rubies, emitting a bewitching light. His 10 fingers were like iron rods that kept tightening. Chang and Bu were both martial marquee experts, but no matter how they tried to persuade or pull Yi Baiming's body, he did not move an inch. Seeing that Tang Yu's limbs were getting weaker and weaker, and his eyes were rolling back, Chang Bai shouted anxiously, "Baiming, calm down. He's Tang Yu, Yun Sheng's cousin." Who, Yi Baiming, who had entered a frenzied state, had entered a state where all 6 of his senses had disappeared. His eyes were covered with a layer of red. He could not hear Chang Bai's words. But just as he was in a daze, he heard a name. Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng's cousin. It was as if a bright light had suddenly appeared in the darkest night. A part of his heart softened. Yi Baiming's hand loosened. Tang Yu fell to the ground, gasping for breath, his fat jiggling like rice bran. It was too frightening. He had almost died. Yi Baiming was also gasping for breath. After regaining consciousness, the strange scales on his body immediately disappeared, and his body quickly returned to its original appearance. The redness at the bottom of his eyes also dissipated. He looked at the horrifying corpses on the ground, his eyes calm, as if the massacre had nothing to do with him. Just now, in the instant that he regained consciousness, Yi Baiming understood that his strength had broken through again. Baiming, you're finally awake. You scared us to death. Changbai wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead and exchanged a look with Bu Jiuxiao. Just now, if he had not said Yun Shang's name in a moment of desperation, most likely, such a Yi Baiming would be too frightening. Changbai and Bu Jiuxiao already understood that Yun Shang was probably the only bottom line for Yi Baiming to maintain his consciousness. Just based on this point, they silently agreed that Yun Shang was Yi Baiming's woman. Everyone in the Bloody Hand Tycoon's camp has been killed. What should we do next? And this kid, what do you plan to do with him? Changbai looked at Tang Yu bitterly. This kid could not be killed. But if they did not kill him and brought him back to the Jade Capital, and if Yi Baiming's secret was exposed, the consequences would be, Tang Yu, I won't kill you. I promised her that I would bring you back. Yi Baiming looked down at Tang Yu. When Tang Yu met Yi Baiming's gaze, he shuddered. The Lord Baiming in front of him was like the god of the underworld from hell. He was handsome, bloodthirsty, and could take a person's life with just a breath. Lord Baiming, I won't say anything. I swear that if I reveal even a little bit of the secret, my intestines will be pierced and I will die a horrible death. Tang Yu was scared out of his wits. He knelt on the ground mechanically and kowtowed. Bring him back. Also, cut off the heads of everyone here and bring them back. Almost 99% of the Yun residence's savings had already landed in Yun Songshua's hands. Father, don't blame me for being ruthless. Anyway, second brother has become a hunter and eldest brother has betrayed the Yun residence for a woman. These family assets will belong to me and you sooner or later. Yun Songshua turned to leave after ransacking the storehouse. Unexpectedly, as soon as he left, he saw Yun Shang and Uncle Yun standing outside the storehouse. There, miss. So little miss was right. You really harmed master. If Uncle Yun hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that the third miss, who was the old master's favorite, would actually do such a thing. Early this morning, Yun Shang quietly entered the residence and found Uncle Yun. Yun Shang had also thought about it. She still had to tell Yun Ba about the magical beast amniotic fluid. But she couldn't tell him directly. After all, there had always been a grudge between her and Yun Ba. If she rashly said that Yun Songshua was the one who put the poison in, Yun Ba would probably give her a good scolding. After thinking it over, Yun Shang felt that Uncle Yun was the most suitable person. When Uncle Yun heard it, he didn't believe it at first, so Yun Shang told him to directly question Yun Songshua. Unexpectedly, Yun Songshua was so disappointing that she actually planned to escape. Moreover, she was prepared to take away all of the Yun residence's assets to escape punishment. This way, Uncle Yun completely believed Yun Shang's words. Uncle Yun. Yun Song, you are just a servant. What right do you have to question me? Get out of the way. Yun Songshua's expression was ugly. When she saw Yun Shang appear, she already knew that the matter of her poisoning had most likely been exposed. If they found Yun Ba, she really wouldn't be able to explain herself. Third miss, how can you treat master like this? If he knew, how sad would he be? If you have any difficulties, feel free to tell master. Uncle Yun was heartbroken. Even now, he still believed that Yun Songshua must have some difficulties that she had no choice but to do. Difficulties? Haha, would he still care about my difficulties? Yun Songshua simply smashed the pot to pieces. She stared maliciously at Yun Shang. Ever since this wretched girl came back, everything has changed. Father used to dote on you so much, but now, you and I were humiliated by this little wretch, but he was indifferent. That's fine, but you is his only grandson. He has raised her in the Yun residence for more than 10 years. No matter what, their relationship should be better than that wretch who was chased out of the house. In the end, Yur was exiled, but he was indifferent. Yun Songshua's words were malicious. She believed that her actions today were all because of Yun Shang. That day, when her father scolded her and told her to get out of the Yun residence, she already understood that in her father's heart, she couldn't compare to Yun Shang. When her eldest brother was still around, it was the same. Now that her eldest brother was gone, another Yunshang had appeared. "Third miss, you've misunderstood master." Uncle Yun still wanted to explain. He put in so much effort for the little young master. Although being exiled to the northwest is a bit difficult, master's subordinates are there. He ordered people to take care of the little young master along the way. Yun Songshua's heart ached and she smiled bitterly. Take care? If you really took care of him, how could you have fallen into the hands of the Bloody Hand Tycoon? He doesn't care about me, his daughter or his grandson. Uncle Yun, no need to say anymore. If you didn't provoke the Bloody Hand Tycoon, how could so many things have happened? You only have yourself to blame. I advise you to quickly go to old General Yun to ask for forgiveness and leave behind the Yun residence's belongings. Yun Sheng originally wanted to personally rush to the Bloody Hand Tycoon's headquarters. Although she didn't like Tang Yu couldn't die now. However, Yi Baiming stopped her. Yi Baiming said that he would save Tang Yu. After saying that, the night fox disappeared. Yun Sheng also didn't know what Tang Yu's current situation was. The Bloody Hand Tycoon belonged to Grand Emperor City, and was definitely not weak. Yun Sheng wasn't worried. Yi Baiming's strength was unfathomable. She just didn't know when he would be able to return to the Jade Capital. Little slut, what right do you have to question me? Yun Songshue raised her eyebrows when she heard that. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. A wave of fighting aura rose around her body and she struck her palm towards Yun Shang's face. That palm carried a force of 500 kilograms. If it landed, it would be enough to shatter a huge rock. She hated and was angry at Yun Shang. She hated her for stealing her position in the Yun residence and was angry at her for causing her and Yuer to have no place to stay. She used a killing move the moment she attacked. Third miss. You can't. Uncle Yun turned pale with fright. Thank you Minion Fish and Tin for your tips. Thank you everyone for your votes. All of this was because of the Yun residence and Yun Songlong. No, even if someone like Yun Ba knew that he was poisoned, he would not go back on his word. We will just sit and wait for the match in a few days. Tian Kezi was unconcerned. Tian Kezi's guess was right on one point. Yun Ba was a stubborn stone in a latrine pit. He was smelly and stubborn. The current situation in the Yun residence proved this point. Under Yun Shang's persuasion, Uncle Yun finally decided to tell Yun Ba about the matter. He ordered someone to call for Yun Songlong and escorted Yun Songshue to Yun Ba. Yun Songshue's battered and exhausted appearance, as well as his furious expression that was about to spit fire, deeply hurt Yun Ba. This old man, who had never been afraid even when facing hundreds of thousands of enemy troops on the battlefield, instantly aged a lot when he heard the entire story from Uncle Yun. He painfully closed his eyes, the expression in his eyes unclear. I will leave first. Yun Shang knew that this was a family matter of the Yun residence. With her current status, it was not suitable for her to stay here. You stay. Since you were the one who exposed this matter, it is impossible for you to stay out of it. Yun Shang, you are a member of the Yun residence and my granddaughter. You will never be able to escape responsibility for the matters of the Yun residence. The one who spoke was Yun Ba. He suddenly opened his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he had already regained his composure. He knew very well that the Yun residence was now riddled with holes. Yun Songshue's betrayal was the last straw that crushed the Yun residence. However, in the face of that terrifying force, he still ended up in his current state. Little Miss was exceptionally talented, but she was still far from eldest young master Sky Sorcerer cultivation. Yun Ba and Uncle Yun had already made up their minds. Even if Yun Shang didn't want to return to the family, they would still protect her. In the Jade Capital, they couldn't let anyone touch Little Mississippi. Just as Yun Ba had predicted, Yun Shang really did find Uncle Yun not long after. However, with Yun Ba's warning, no matter how she asked, Uncle Yun insisted that he didn't know anything about Yun Shang's mother's background. Yun Shang had no choice but to give up on the idea of getting information from Uncle Yun. She thought about it again. Her mother's surname was Fox. This surname was very rare on the mainland. Perhaps she could find some clues from this surname. Yun Shang decided to use the local Hunters Guild in the Jade Capital to issue a mission to search for information about the family or people related to the surname Fox. As long as someone had some clues, they could contact her through the Hunters Guild. After her inquiries were fruitless, Yun Shang returned to Wuxia Everlasting Hall, somewhat dejected. To her surprise, she met Yi Baiming. Scourges live for 1,000 years. The sooner we get rid of them, the better. Yun Shang carefully read the letter again. In Xian Wuji's letter, there were only some daily orders. It did not mention where he had gotten the bottle of amniotic fluid poison. Although the Dark Crown Prince was a black-bellied and cruel person, he was not fond of using poison. The poison must not have been ordered by him. Behind this scene there must be other forces involved. You plan to kill Xian Wuji personally? With your current strength, I'm afraid you're not strong enough. Yi Baiming shook his head. He did not want to let Yun Shang take the risk alone. Yun Shang was about to say that she had summoned a beast to help her when she heard Zhou Quan shouting loudly as he walked in. "Young Master Yun, I'm back." Hearing Zhou Quan's voice, Yun Shang remembered that Zhou Quan had been ordered by her to bring Tycoon Jin to various hunter citadels to participate in the competition. He had said that he would be back in 3 months. However, a full 4.5 months had passed and Zhou Quan still had not returned. Yun Shang was also busy investigating Yun Ba's poison and the medical center, so she did not think of this matter for a while. Zhou Quan was here to claim credit. He brought along the cloaked weirdo and was ordered to participate in the competition. He only knew that the other party's name was Tycoon Jin. He did not know his gender, origin, age, or even appearance. Along the way, Zhou Quan even spoke to the other party enthusiastically several times, but Tycoon Jin did not respond to him at all. This hurt Zhou Quan greatly. He did not know how many times he had ridiculed Tycoon Jin in his heart. He even suspected that this fellow was mute. He also did not know what his young master's intentions were for him to bring this mute around. His first stop was Daoi Mountain Citadel. He had been there once and was quite familiar with the place. In addition, due to the Purple Gold Mine incident at the border of Zhou State, the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps had risen to fame in Zhou State. The Hunting Corps had also jumped 2 ranks from the initial E rank to a B rank Hunting Corps. Zhou Quan's journey could be considered very smooth. However, what made Zhou Quan very depressed was that in the first few days, he was almost angered to death by Tycoon Jin. Yun Shang only said that Tycoon Jin was a new hunter that she had recruited and did not know anything. She wanted it to participate in more battles to increase its actual combat experience. Zhou Quan thought that with young Master Yun's perverted personality, how could a hunter recruited be bad? Young Master Yun must have been being polite. Tycoon Jin's ability was definitely not bad. Who would have known that Zhou Quan was gravely mistaken this time? As soon as Tycoon Jin entered the arena, it was sent flying by an E-rank hunter as soon as the fight started. It immediately lost the first match. For the next few days, Tycoon Jin was like this. In the competition, he was like a child who did not know what to do. Without exception, he would be sent flying the moment he stepped onto the stage. Those who were familiar with Zhou Quan all mocked him, saying that if such a hunter could enter the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps, it would seem that the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps was just SOSO. Zhou Quan was so angry that he almost couldn't breathe. On the 10th day, Zhou Quan decided that if Tycoon Jin could not even win a single match, he would just take him back and hand him over to young Master Yun. He could not afford to lose face like this. Who would have known that on the day of the competition, Tycoon Jin would change from its usual state? It was as if it had suddenly been enlightened. From the first match, its luck exploded and it won all the way. At the beginning, it did not know how to fight at all. Now, it exploded with all sorts of battle techniques and even some magic. From the 10th day to the 20th day, it went from an E-rank hunter with 0 points to a C-rank hunter. It won a total of 108 matches in a row. Its average win rate in a single day was as high as 100%. The entire Daoi Mountain Hunter Citadel was in an uproar. Zhou Quan was ecstatic. One had to know that all hunters had a little hobby. Zhou Quan's hobby was gambling. He had bet on quite a number of nouveau riche gold matches and lost most of them. Who would have known that in the next 10 days, he would win 108 matches in a row? After doing some calculations, Zhou Quan had won more than 10,000 gold coins. Chapter 4:12. Zhou Quan also noticed that Tyrant Jin's learning ability was especially strong. In the first 10 days, it had been learning the other party's battle skills and magic. Zhou Quan finally understood young Master Yun's intentions. She clearly wanted him to bring Tyrant Jin everywhere to learn how to destroy the competition. From that day onwards, Zhou Quan was like a brothel keeper, valiantly bringing along the red-card hired thug Tyrant Jin, all the way from Daoi Mountain to the north, south, east, west, and north. Almost all of the Great Zhou's hunter citadels had been visited by him. As Tyrant Jin's hunter level got higher and higher, his opponents also got stronger and stronger. Everywhere he went, he would still lose in the first few days, but after 10 days or at least one day, he would start to win. In the end, Zhou State's hunter citadel already knew that there was a hunter called Tyrant Jin, who came from the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps. This person didn't say a word, but he was extremely strong. He could learn any battle skills in one go. It was fine if he lost the competition, but learning battle skills and magic in one go was a big problem. The hunters who were competing with them didn't want their unique combat skills to be inexplicably learned by someone else. Therefore, as soon as Tycoon Gold arrived, all the hunters in the major arenas stopped fighting and were unwilling to compete with him. In the end, even the Hunter Union was alarmed by this incident. The reason Zhou Quan and Tyrant Jin returned was because the Zhou State's Hunters Guild jointly issued a ban, forbidding Tyrant Jin from entering the Hunter Citadel in the future. So we had no choice but to return. Young Master Yun, where did you find Tyrant Jin's treasure? Don't you know that he's now a fierce character that even the Hunters Guild is afraid of? Zhou Quan was very proud. Yun Sheng was listening on the side, laughing so hard that she almost cried. During this period of time, she rarely went to the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps and didn't contact the Hunters Guild. She didn't expect that Tyrant Jin, an eternal magic weapon that she unintentionally refined, would become such a powerful character. However, she had achieved her goal of training Tyrant Jin. From the looks of it, Tyrant Jin's strength must have improved greatly. While Zhou Quan was complaining, Tyrant Jin stood quietly on the side. To it, the training of the past was nothing more than a kind of mechanical training. He wasn't a human but a magic weapon. He would do whatever his master, Yun Sheng, wanted him to do. Yi Baiming was also sizing up Tyrant Jin. Even with his eyesight, he couldn't see through Tyrant Jin's cultivation level. Yi Baiming didn't know that Tyrant Jin wasn't a human, but a magic weapon. So he couldn't help but be confused. Tyrant Jin was Tyrant Jin was Tyrant Jin's Tyrant Jin was Tyrant Jin was Tyrant Jin's Tyrant Jin's Tyrant Jin Tyrant Jin's Tyrant Jin. Jin Tyrant Tyrant's Tyrant Jin. Young Master Yun, hurry up and get this guy to do the mission. With his ruthlessness, he'll kill anyone he sees. Even if it's an A-rank mission, he won't even frown and solve it. Zhou Quan's face was full of smiles when he thought of Tycoon Jin accompanying his brothers to do missions. Right now, Tycoon Jin was simply a killing machine in human form. Yun Sheng didn't say anything. She just told Zhou Quan to report back to the hunting camp. After Zhou Quan left, Yi Baiming was still sizing up Tyrant Jin with a frown. It's not a human, right? If I'm not wrong, it's an eternal magic weapon? Yun Sheng raised her eyebrows and gave Yi Baiming a thumbs up. He was indeed a wild fox. Eternal magic weapons were extremely rare on the mainland. Yi Baiming saw through it at a glance. Is it really an eternal magic weapon? Yi Baiming couldn't help but be moved. Yun Sheng took off Tyrant Jin's cloak, and a purple gold man appeared in front of Yi Baiming. Purple gold? A magic weapon made of purple gold? No wonder it was called Tycoon Gold. With such a shiny golden artifact, it was enough to blind everyone's eyes. Yi Baiming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little Wild Cat's thinking ability was really extraordinary. The shape of this magic weapon was really rich and domineering. He knew that Yun Sheng had obtained the remaining quarter of the purple gold mine. But he didn't expect that Yun Sheng would use the purple gold mine to refine an eternal magic weapon. He naturally didn't know that this purple gold man didn't use the quarter of the purple gold mine that Yun Sheng had obtained. Instead, it was forged from the more precious purple gold wall stone combined with elven hellfire. Little wild cat, your eternal magic weapon is quite strong. Are you still worried about the competition in a few days? Yi Baiming narrowed his foxy eyes and looked at it for a while. Who's worried? I'm not worried about that old man Yun Ba, Yun Sheng said, half in a fit of pique. Yun Songlong and Uncle Yun had already tried to persuade him, but Yun Ba was stubborn and didn't listen to them. He kicked everyone out. Yun Sheng was also unwilling to pry open that smelly and hard old latrine stone. Yun Sheng was angry, but Yi Baiming saw her reaction. Looking at Yun Sheng's obviously haggard face, Yi Baiming's eyes had an additional trace of deep thought. He somewhat missed the lazy little wild cat that was lying under the sun in Banana Leaf Village. However, he couldn't directly help in this matter. After all, his identity was special. Empress Qi and the Crown Prince hadn't made any moves recently, but there were many people secretly watching Wushuan Limitless School. The words "I'm very worried" are written on your face. There's no need to quibble. Yi Baiming's words almost made Yun Sheng depressed to death. Night Fox was her destined nemesis. He would see through everything at a glance. What's the use of worrying? I can't help him. I can't cure the poison. I can't help in the competition either. Yun Sheng complained in a sulky tone. You can find someone to replace Yun Ba in the competition. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, you can avoid it. Yi Baiming pointed out. Replace Yun Ba? That's impossible. That old man won't agree. Furthermore, there were many people with 2 legs. However, there were only a few 2-legged martial sages in the Great Zhou dynasty. Excluding those who lived in seclusion, the only one who could compete with Tian Kezi was Yun Ba. Besides, Tian Kezi isn't easy to deal with. He knows very well whether or not his opponent is Yun Ba. Yun Sheng hadn't thought of this problem before. In fact, Yun Songlong had wanted to replace his father and compete with Tian Kezi. Yun Songlong's cultivation wasn't bad, but he wasn't a martial sage. After taking the purple herb 1000 golden pill, his dou qi had greatly increased, but he was still a martial ancestor. The difference in strength between a martial ancestor and a martial sage couldn't be closed in a few days. You don't have to worry about the competition. Think about it. If Tian Kezi is unlucky and gets ambushed the day before the competition, he might be seriously injured or even killed. At that time, Yun Ba won't be able to find someone to compete with. He's just a martial sage. If you don't like him, you can just kill him. Yi Baiming's foxy eyes narrowed. The corners of his eyes curved as he smiled brilliantly. Yun Sheng shuddered. Night Fox's thoughts were too evil. However, she liked it. Thank you Momo and Tindrop for your tips. Facepalm I'll be out of town for the entire week next week. There might be fewer updates on certain days. I'll make up for it later. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.